So thank you, JP, for your time. I want to start with trying to understand you. Who is JP and how did JP end up here in at the cutting edge of healthcare and LLMs? From a long time back, you were doing mobility and auto rickshaws in India. How did you land up here? Just if you can take us through that journey.
And I'm JP, right now running 101 GenAI Health AI platform, a no-code Health AI platform. My background, an engineer turned into a product manager, turned into an entrepreneur, and then I've done series of entrepreneurship. Some as a founder, few where I joined other founders to do it. I think what excites me, what defines me is that typical 0 to 1 innovator. Some people call it the crazy guy, but 0 to 1, like picking a problem that is a big problem that has not been solved. There is a lot of pain, be it consumer problem, be it an enterprise problem, and solving it using technology. That's where the engineering background comes in. Using technology to solve a business problem. The shape of the problem, the region of the problem, the nature of the problems keeps changing. And that's what Amit, you are referring to. In my case, my problem definition was that commute is a big problem in India, right? Now I see healthcare as a big problem as we are all aging and our parents and grandparents are aging, and we all know what happened during pandemic. So I think our understanding of the world, our understanding of the problems keep changing. We keep focusing on, I would say, slightly higher level problems, slightly more deeper problems. But the urge to solve it using technology remains the same. And that defines my journey from Auto Wale, which was an auto rickshaw commute problem, to 101 GenAI, which is a healthcare workflow problem. So at times I joke that from automating commute to automating healthcare workflows, but the problem is effectively the same, just that the domain and the geography has changed.
Very nice, very nice. So let's talk about 101 GenAI. What is the proposition? When you talk to your customers, how do you explain your product, your proposition? Just dumb it down for us, please.
Before we talk about 101 GenAI, let's talk about what's happening in the world of healthcare, what's happening in the world of AI,
Sure.
and that's how 101 GenAI started. And then let's go to the genesis, and then we'll jump into the platform and the capabilities and the value prop. So with the rise of AI, a lot of industries are getting disrupted, right? Like it's leading to a builder economy where almost anyone, everyone, irrespective of their educational qualification, irrespective of their background, irrespective of their location, they can now build things. It's giving rise to a builder economy. That's what the generative AI has done, right? Anyone can be a builder now. On the other hand, if you look at healthcare, there were a lot of workflows, there were a lot of problems that were solved, but there were a lot of problems that were unsolved. And technology alone was not able to solve. With the rise of generative AI, with the rise of this new age of AI, there's a hypothesis that the healthcare will leapfrog from, they call it the fax machines, to AI, right? So they will leapfrog, right? And any industry that goes through this unprecedented growth, mostly it's not the in-house people, or mostly it's not the incumbents or the buyers who do it. Like most of the innovation, if you look at it, and Amit, you have been on an entrepreneurship side, it comes through builders, it comes through creators, it comes through entrepreneurs, right? But now putting it all together, what is our hypothesis at 101 GenAI, right? Our hypothesis at 101 GenAI is that healthcare will get disrupted with AI. This disruption will not be done by the in-house team because that's not their core expertise. Their core expertise or their core skill set is to provide care. They are not AI native companies, and they have billions of dollars, $1 trillion, multi-trillion dollar industry in US. Globally, it's such a big industry, expected to grow almost 42% CAGR from 30 billion to almost 184 billion by 2030. So such massive growth will not come by in-house engineers and in-house builders. We see an economy where there'll be a lot of builders sitting outside of these healthcare organizations. Let's call them entrepreneurs. Let's call them health tech entrepreneurs who'll be building this using their domain knowledge, maybe being passionate about a certain problem because they have seen someone losing their family member to something, someone going through a mental health problem, like losing someone to cancer. Someone very passionate about it will try to solve it, and they will be able to solve it using AI because now technology is not a blocker, right? So we built 101 GenAI as a platform where we solve two problems. A, it's very easy for anyone who wants to build it to build a multi-agent workflow for healthcare. It could be for mental health, it could be for prior authorization, it could be for cancer care, it could be some chronic care management, it could be anything, right? On the other hand, there's a platform which will be accessible to large enterprises, large healthcares, where they don't have to move at their in-house speed. They move with the speed of AI or speed with the speed of the innovation that the world is going through, right? So imagine someone sitting in India building the best, let's say, MSK agent for musculoskeletal conditions, and a hospital in US trying to launch it for their patients. They should be able to access that, right? So going back to what 101 GenAI does, it offers builders a platform where they can quickly build and launch their innovation. On the other hand, it gives a platform to the buyers or so-called the enablers to get the latest access to the innovation and distribute it to their customers, right? If you put it all together, the value prop are threefold, right? What we are trying to solve is the problem of speed, the problem of cost, and the problem of agility. Let me double down what it means, and I'll take some time to explain because it's important. in the world of AI, the time the joke is that by the time you build it, it's obsolete, right? Models are coming at a very different speed. By the time you integrate with one model, the new model gets released and better accuracy comes, right? So speed is important. At the same time, agility is important. That like you can't just build everything on one model. Every month the leadership board changes. Maybe for your use case, maybe you thought that one model, I will not name any, but maybe you thought one LLM is better, but another LLM turns out to be better for your use case. That's the agility part. And the last is the cost part, right? AI is going through a talent war. We all know what's happening in the world of AI. Talent is expensive in Bay Area where I live. The talented AI person cost anywhere from $1 million to $100 million if I can joke about it, right? So not everyone can afford it. Like there's a limited supply of AI talent, right? So putting it all together, we offer our customers the speed so that they can go from an idea to a concept, both the builder as well as buyer, within a couple of days, maybe a couple of months. They do it at a cost that is affordable, not just for a builder who is an entrepreneur running a 2 people or 10 people company, but also for a large healthcare system who have some budget constraints, but they also want to have access to the better talent. And the last part is the agility, that if something changes either on the AI landscape, or maybe you get the feedback from doctors or the patient, you are able to change it very. Maybe something changes in the competitive landscape, right? So putting it all together, one GenAI is that no-code platform that offers innovation on both the sides of the equation, on the builder side as well as on the buyer side.
So how do I kind of understand it? I understand that you are helping new young entrepreneurs. Let's say one of the ICP is young entrepreneur uh, who is trying to kind of take a slice of a problem in health tech and solve it using AI. They have to kind of figure out which is the right model for them. They have to do 20 things, and maybe some of those things are done at your platform. So can we call it cursor for healthcare startups, or is it like dumbing it down too much and missing the core of it? How to kind of so I understand what you're trying to do, but how does it look like? How does it feel like? How do I interact with it? What is that? If you can talk about that.
Got it. So I think you picked a good analogy, sir, for healthcare. That's a good analogy. Other ways investors put us is like crew AI for healthcare, basically like how to build a multi-agent workflows uh, without writing a line of code, right? So that's there. Right? So I think analogies are good. So be it cursor for healthcare or be it crew AI for healthcare. The intent is that we make it super easy for anyone to come. And when we say anyone, it's very, with that, I'll quickly touch upon the important aspect, right? Who is the ICP? Who is the end user of our platform? The end user of our platform is someone who comes from either a healthcare background or a health tech background. It could be a doctor trying to solve a problem or maybe starting a company. It could be a nurse who has picked a point solution and trying to do something, or it could be someone who is not even from a healthcare background but passionate about solving the healthcare problems. Right? Those are our users. Our users are not, I would say, super technical folks who do it, right? Which is where I would say we differentiate from, I would say, Cursor or Crew, where their end user or an ICP is an engineer, right? And we go to an ICP which is not very technical, right? They don't know what is Python coding. They don't know like what is, maybe they know what is prompt, but they don't know the frameworks behind drag and all those things. Right? So to simplify, now to answer your question, now we understand the ICP. What we offer is a no-code platform. We call it Health AI in a box, where you don't have to worry about the nuances of AI. You don't have to worry about vector embedding, chunking, RAG framework, one LLM, another LLM, weights, and all those things. What you have to worry about is what is my core problem. You articulate that problem, you write it as a prompt, or maybe a one pager, you upload it on our platform. It will break it down into various agents and tasks. Agentic tasks is what we call them. Behind these agentic tasks, it automatically figures out which LLM to pick for which task, because it's a compatible thing. Maybe for patient onboarding, one LLM is good, but maybe for medical imaging, another LLM is better, right? I'm being very careful not to name any LLM because every LLM has their strength and weakness, but like there's no one size fits all, right? So they go from an intent or a problem statement to a very complicated multi-agent workflow where it's not just behind the scenes LLM. At times, it's also APIs that, let's say, do the appointment booking. Maybe APIs to check the insurance eligibility. Right? There's so many things that goes behind the scenes, and layer by layer, step by step, task by task, a non-engineer, a non-technical person is able to build a very complex workflow on our platform.
So if I want to build something, I want to build, let's say, a telehealth solution, or let's say second opinion solution, then what do I get? I know I don't have to put a line of code. I'll just interact with prompts. What do I have to bring to it? Do I have to bring my data into it, or the data also exists? Do I have to kind of the whole diagnosis? Like how do you do diagnosis? Is that I have to tell it to the system, or the system already has it? How does that healthcare or medical knowledge? Where is that coming from?
Got it. That's a good question, Amit. So let's break it down, right? So what does it take to build it out? I will say three things, right? You need data, you need the domain knowledge, and you need the models, right? These are the three things. These are the three building blocks for any use case. At least let's focus on healthcare. If you have the right data set, if you have the right domain knowledge, let's call it maybe the knowledge base, and if you have the right models, putting these three things together, the permutation combination of these will lead to maybe a single agent system or a multi-agent system. Now let's break it down one by one. Let's start with the knowledge, domain knowledge of the knowledge base, right? The only thing that the user has to bring here is an intent. That means the problem statement. And then from there, they have two options. Either they can rely on public knowledge bases, which our platform provides. So let's take an example of radiology, right? So let's say someone wants to build a radiology second opinion use case, or let's be very specific. Let's say someone wants to build a second opinion
Just
platform
excellent.
for let's say physiotherapy. Let's take an example that will connect with most of the users because all of us have gone through some kind of physiotherapy issue, right? So let's say they want to take a second opinion for physiotherapy, right? Whether I should go for it, whether I should go for surgery or something, right? So I would say a lot of knowledge already exists within these LLMs because they've been trained on a lot of public knowledge bases and everything, right? Every builder, every entrepreneur, every like let's say product manager will have certain preference for certain documents. Maybe they will trust certain knowledge bases more than the other. And that is something that we provide in our public knowledge bases that they can select. They will say, okay, I trust, let's say, all the clinical trial results only. But I don't trust anything on PubMed. I don't trust anything that is not scientifically vetted, right? So all of those things are available on our public knowledge basis. The second option is that someone says that I don't trust anything, or I want to rely only on the documents that I have built myself. So for example, we already have a customer where they have written like almost 300 blogs. They have very specific detailing of each and every exercise, physiotherapy, and yoga for every muscle and every bone in the body, right? And they're like, we don't want to rely on the world's knowledge, but we want to give them very curated knowledge base that we have built, that our yoga therapist and physiotherapists have built in-house, right? So in that case, we introduced this concept of a private knowledge base. Think of it as like your private LLM or library card that you want to have and you want your customers to just get referred to that. So that's where I would say the data comes in. Like it could have a private knowledge base, it could have a public knowledge base, same with data sets. Like you could either rely on public data sets and we have multiple data sets available on our platform, or you say that I already have 5 years of physiotherapy data or maybe like X-ray scans of like millions of patients, right? So that's where the fork comes in. So that's about the data sets. That's about the knowledge bases, right? Now let's go to the data set, which I quickly touched upon. Data set says basically within physiotherapy, what do you want to do? Do you want to do like, knee? Do you want to do elbow? Do you want to do like, what kind of specialized
Back.
data that you want to focus on? Maybe you want to focus it on Indian population, whether you want to focus on US population, you want to focus on women, men, like, data has different dimensions to it, right? So that's where I would say the dimensionality or the focus of data comes in. So that's where either customers bring their own data or we have them get public data sets. I'll switch an example. We have another customer and I'll give examples of customers so that like it's easy for the audience to understand the use cases. Here we are talking about wound care. Now wound could be anything, right? But there the data, the models were trained on a very specific kind of wound, which is diabetic foot ulcer. The models, in this case, the computer vision model was trained on hundreds of thousands of diabetic foot ulcer images, right? Nothing else. Diabetic foot ulcer images in US for various population. And then when the model was trained, it was at some accuracy and now it is at like, higher accuracy, right? So that's where the data comes in. The last part is the model. Most of our customers start with LLM because it makes it easy to start. But based on our observation over the last 2 years, more than two-thirds of our customers switch from LLMs to some kind of open source model at some point of time. So LLMs are good to start with, but they say like you don't need a bazooka for something as small as like identifying a very specific thing. So you need a model that is very precise, very accurate, but a low cost model. And for that, mostly what we've seen is that two-thirds of the times that people switch from a general purpose model to a very specific model. That could be for computer vision model, let's say for wound care. That could be a model for physiotherapy or radiology, trained on, again, some specific data set. That model could be for audio, for telehealth use cases, but like depending upon the use case, people train it on different models, right? And putting it all together is the part, right? How 101 Gen AI solves it is that it cuts through all these three steps in a very structured workflow. It asks you for the intent. It asks you to upload the knowledge bases, private and public. It asks you to upload the data sets, again, private and public. And then it recommends models starting with LLMs, but you also have an option to replace LLM with your own models. And we are able to stitch a very complicated workflow by stitching your own models and LLMs together.
There's one confusion I have. This I understood, but when I was thinking about the users, see, I understand that ICP who is young, who is trying to build something, understands the problem statement, does not understand the technology or the coding behind it. But you have customers like 1MG also. They do know how to build software, how to build products. Where do they fit in?
Got it. I would say 1MG is more going back to the marketplace model. 1MG, I would say, is more on the buyer side because they are not a small young startup anymore. They are on the buyer side, right? So the way we work with 1MG is we have partners, we have builders on our platform who have built, let's say, a telehealth solution on our platform, right? When we go to 1MG, we are able to offer that pre-built let's say, telehealth solution to 1mg, where even 1mg does not have to go through that 0 to 1 journey because someone else has gone deep into that problem and they can innovate, right? Another classic example is that, like, we call it AI with BI, right? AI with BI is another very complicated thing that a lot of startups are building. And there's something that we are able to provide as an add-on on our platform where you're not just analyzing the telehealth calls, but you're also able to go deep into the insights about patterns within what's working, what's not working, and that we are able to put a BI layer on top of an AI layer, right? So look at it, all the innovation that's happening on our platform, let's say, or maybe outside of our platform, we are able to bring it to 1mg through 101 GenAI platform. And anything that's, I would say, not available, not already built on 101 GenAI platform already, that's when we get into a co-creation mode. What is co-creation? Co-creation is that, let's say they have a new use case and they want to go live with that use case within, let's say, 30 days. That's the speed at which we move. They want to go live with that use case within 30 days. They rely on our platform, and at times we put our product and engineering team on that particular use case. And our platform makes it possible to go live. Going back to that speed, cost, agility, right? For a company as big as 1mg, if they want to do these use cases in-house, every use case will take maybe 6, maybe 9 months, maybe 1 year. And then the agility will also be very limited. Through us, they're able to go live with one use case almost every month.
So is it fair to say that for a company which is large, which is a health tech company, they will use your product more for their peripheral cases, not for the core case, because their core use case they will build in-house, or they've already built it in-house and they would want to control it much more tightly. It's for the new ideas or peripheral use cases that they will come to you.
I would say, actually, like, yes and no. Yes, because anything that is core to a business should be built in-house. Right? I think that's what you are referring to, right? Anything that is peripheral should be outside, right? If you look at it, if you look at the health tech system versus the healthcare system, what is core to health tech? The core to health tech is that either they are a digital health platform or they are a telehealth company. So whatever is working for them for the last 5, 10 years, that is core to them, right? What is non-core to them? Non-core to them is AI. And that's what I think I was referring to, which is, I think, even more highlighted when we talk about the healthcare systems, right? When we go to the large healthcare systems, I'm talking primarily US, but we are also working with few large healthcare systems in India as well. AI is not their core, right? If you go and talk to most of the CTOs, CIOs, or the head of digital transformation, look at the way they are innovating. They're mostly either working with great partners. It could be like big companies like Microsoft, Google, or they're working with innovative companies like 101 GenAI or few of our partners, right? So their core is care. Their core is surgeries. Their core is, like, pharmacy. Their core is not building AI solution, right? So that's where I would say, Amit, I will answer your question differently. That for health tech, let's say for a radiology company, they would not use our platform for radiology, but they will use our platform for anything apart from radiology. Let's say appointment booking and like customer appointment booking and surveys and everything. But radiology is their core IP, right? But when it comes to healthcare, I would say their care is their more core. And I would say anything that they want to do in AI is something that could be done or is being done by one of engineering platform.
But let's go back to that example that if I'm trying to build a second opinion for diagnostics or something like that, then that's all I'm trying to do. I'm a first time founder trying to build something. I don't understand technology as well, but I have this use case in mind. I can get users and all those things. Or maybe I have a tech co-founder also or something like that. So if I build, am I using your product to do a quick POC? And if it works, then at some point I would want to kind of take it in-house, or I'll just go with it. Because if I become big and I'm completely relying on you, one is it is a risk, but that aside, then I'm kind of using you for my core proposition. So is that not at odds with what you were saying a while back?
I get it. I get it. So I think that's a fair question. And to be honest, Amit, like, these questions do come up when we are talking to our customers. And most of the time, I would not say all the times, but most of the time we align. We align as in we are able to, like, align on the future direction, which is going back to the three core thing, right? Speed, cost, agility. And I think that there are a few companies who decide to just build it in house. They're like, okay, I'll do everything in house, and they do it in house, and a lot of respect for them, right? But people who work with us, I'm talking about the younger health tech companies, they're able to go to the market faster, they're able to raise funding faster, they're able to close deals faster. So I think that part is sorted, and I think you agree that, like, no, the time to market and POC, I think what you're calling it, they rely on our platform, right? That's where the speed and cost is already addressed, right? That you are able to go to market faster. The third part, which is agility, is where the stickiness comes in, right? So let's say you come with us, you work with us, you build something for 5 months, 6 months, and then you say, I want to take it in-house, right? The day you take it in-house, a new model comes in the market, or something else changes, and there's a better way to do it. A new framework comes in, like an MCP framework comes in, a better, like, RAG framework comes in that reduces the inference time by like 50%, right? Now, what do you do? Right? So we are living in a world where the state of the infrastructure, the state of the product is not very static. It's not very static. It's very dynamic, right? So if I read my customer's mind, there are a few customers who think that they will work with 101 GenAI for 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, till they don't have funding, and after they get funding, they just move everything in house. I don't see that happen, right? Like, even after they raise funding, they continue working with us, and in fact, they double down on us, right? And let me explain why that happens, right? And there's an intersection of, I think, what you are referring to, core versus non-core, right? Everyone starts with the core. but slowly the non-core also expands, their market understanding expands. And then at the end of it, it's not just about that particular AI solution. It becomes like a workflow problem, right? So let's say this example of second opinion, right? Originally, maybe the idea was that if the second opinion is you just upload your X-ray or doctor's report and you get a second opinion. Now you want to give them actually exercises that they can do at home. Now you want to give them an option that, hey, let me help you book an appointment with the nearest physiotherapist or a doctor, right? So maybe you want to sell certain products, right? And then the peripheral use cases, as I think you were pointing out to it, it just keeps increasing, right? And now what you can't do is you can't just say that, okay, I'll take the core in-house and rest everything remains outsourced. I think the workflow is a much bigger mode. Workflow with agility is a much bigger mode that's helping I would our customer like stay on top of their business, and B, it helps us from I would say customer satisfaction, retention, and churn perspective. So our churn is actually pretty low. At some point of time, I used to say it's almost zero. It's not zero. There are a few companies who are not able to like raise funding and they're not able to afford it. Like companies who make it to the next level, none of them leave us because of the value prop that they get. Example of it that I'll give is basically this, right? Again, maybe I'll go back to what is core, not core, right? Like payment gateway integration, right? There was a time when everyone was trying to like set up their own payment inferences and payment gateway, but now no one does it, right? My co-founder, my CTO used to run India's biggest fintech company, PayU. He was the CTO of PayU, but we just use Stripe for all our payment integration, right? So that's not our core, right? And we don't do that. Now let's bring it back to what is core, right? So for a second opinion company, the core is the end user experience. The core is the problem that we are solving, right? And that is something where we don't operate, right? And then with that, maybe I'll jump to the other topic. So far, we have been talking about what is 101 GenAI, but let me also tell you what it is not, what is not covered in 101 GenAI. We don't own the front end user experience. Let me explain what that means. So we just provide the AI layer. We call it AI via API. We just provide that, just like let's say the Stripe example, right? So we give just APIs or Plate or whatever it is. Right? We just give the APIs for payment gateway integration. Here we are giving APIs for AI, right? What we don't own is the front end experience. The companies who are able to solve that real user problem, like how would a doctor interact with the app? How would the patient interact with the app? How would the patient app and doctor app connect with each other? And AI is, I would suggest, an enabler to that, right? So that's what we do. We just provide AI APIs for AI. All the agents and models that are built on our platform, they're available by API. And the end user is able to build a very complicated workflow. They focus on the front end and they do that. So I call it the cerebral layer and the front end layer. So we focus mainly on the cognitive or the cerebral layer of healthcare AI.
Well, this is very helpful. Got it. And so, actually, I'll tell you where my question was coming from. We've all seen in the pre-AI world, we have seen these no-code and low-code platforms, and there used to be this thing. Okay, this is the year for low-code. Now it'll transition. It never happened. It's not that there was no utility; there was some utility, but very quickly, any serious company will say, "Okay, now I want to build it on my own." The products that kind of really scaled are like Shopify is one shining example, but they do front end, they do a lot of they're a platform themselves. There are a lot of other entrepreneurs, like in your case, a lot of builders who have built their apps and they're hosted on Shopify platform, which another entrepreneur is building a brand can access. But largely, all these kind of no code kind of things, they just became like any serious engineer will say, "Oh, what is this?" Any serious company will say, "What is this?" So I understand with AI, with data, the data sets, knowledge base, all those things, what you're offering is a lot more. Plus, this space is is changing fast. But that may not be always true, right? At some point, it'll hit that asymptote wherein this becomes a little bit more predictable. The models are mature enough. Even if it is something is happening at a SOTA level, that doesn't bother me as much. Maybe, because my use case is still well solved. Or I don't want to pay for that top end model. Is because this is a classic risk. One is I was trying to approach it from an understanding standpoint, what you're doing, whether it's this or not. From a risk standpoint, if you become a POC platform, that's a much smaller opportunity versus if you can say that you are their partners. Because if you're just POC, then most of them will die. So some will die, some will scale and churn. So what are you left with? So the real opportunity or real big company can be built when you continue to stay with them and understand peripheral use cases you will always keep getting. But the real meat is when you are kind of somewhere that core business depends upon you. Any examples you can talk about wherein the companies have gone through that journey and they have already scaled up and they're still saying that we want you for your core use case. Just make it visual, make it real for us by giving some examples.
Got it. Super interesting question. I love the way you are like probing it. And by the way, I built no code platforms in the past, and I totally connect with what you're saying. Right? It looks good on paper. That would be no code, but and then 3 years later they call it low code, not low code, right? Because like they can never eliminate the code snippet that's needed there, right? But at the same time, you also are seeing, and I think you mentioned that is that the world of AI is changing it, right? World of AI is changing it. And I would say now even the coding platforms are becoming no code, right? Like the joke is that when
True.
engineers don't write code anymore, right? So in fact, I was speaking at a recent conference hosted by Google Cloud. We keep doing these AI in healthcare events. We did with Google Cloud in London, and there were like almost 100 healthcare, health tech professionals and doctors in the audience. And one of the questions was that should we learn to write code? Like doctors were asking, should we learn to write code? And my answer to them, or in a humorous way, was that no, like you should not learn to write a code. In fact, I as an engineer have stopped writing code now, right? So I think world
Fair.
is moving, not just healthcare. I'm saying world is moving towards completely no code now, right? Like even my CTO uses cursor, like as I said, right, to write code, right? So I think world, this is the time. Like I would say every hypothesis has a time for shining, and then no code platforms are eventually shining. And we look at NAT and look at like so many other platforms that are coming in. No code is Zapier is another this thing, right? Like you are able to stitch very complicated workflow without writing very complex code, right? So I think no code has seen some success, and then with AI, I think that's the future. I think core platforms are less adopted now. Right? The second thing that I would say is that going back to the builder economy, right? I think people who get hooked to certain way of building things, right? They don't change their behavior. In terms of engineers, it's basically a platform or an IDE. We all read what happened with Windsurf and everything, right? They get hooked to one IDE and they carry that IDE from one place to another place. Right? Similarly, going back to the ICP, right? ICP in this case is basically a healthcare person or someone who understands the workflow very well but does not understand this, right? So doctor, it could be a doctor, it could be something, right? Again, going back to like the specific example, I'll not take a customer name, but like one of the larger healthcare company where we are doing something for telehealth, there our ICP is a doctor. Like she's actually a doctor, and then we talk to her almost every week, and she has multiple like quality initiatives within their team, right? So with that ICP, and that's the ICP that we constantly work with that ICP, I think no code is the only way to work. The only competition there is that you give them 5 engineers and they give them requirements and someone writes code for them, right? In that case, the speed and the agility is challenged, right? So when you work with these ICPs and if you are able to demonstrate value, not just for one use case, which is I think what you and I were talking about, if it's just one use case, I think there is a debate about build versus buy. But the moment you say that there are 5 use cases that are interconnected, then there's never a debate about build versus buy because there's a limit to which you can build everything in house. You can build something in house, but you can't build everything in house, right? And I'll go back to the workflow problem, right? It's not just one point solution that you can build and say that this is my core and I'll make money from that. Maybe you do that, but you have to think about the holistic workflow. So going back to second opinion problem, maybe you build one agent and you move it in house, but then you expand and then the business grows. Once you unlock the power of creativity, I call it, like that's what builders need. Once you unlock the power of creativity that, okay, I have this 2 new use cases that I have to go live this quarter with, what should I do? And you just quickly come and do it on our platform. So it's a very incremental, but also I would say very rewarding value cycle that you build something, you launch something, you build something, you launch something, and you expand the use case. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're always winning on time to market, then I keep postponing the decision to take it in house. And at some point, I give up, maybe. Maybe
Yeah,
that's how
exactly.
it.
And I think you were saying, like, give an example of a customer, but we have many such customers where they started with one use case, and then within 3 months they have 2 use cases, and we have few customers who are doing like 10 use cases with us, right? They started with one, now they are doing 10, right? The moment you go from 1 to 10, not 0 to 1, the moment you go from 1 to 10, that build versus buy decision is not so critical because the speed, agility takes priority over everything else.
So tell me one thing, see, I see these are very different user segments. A doctor trying to build something in healthcare using your platform to build some tech, a technology founder, or maybe that's not your use case, but there's a health tech company which has scaled like 1 mg trying to do some peripheral use cases with you. Why are you even talking to them when you can just go after these hospitals who anyway are very far from technology? They will never have this discussion amongst themselves, let's build it in
Correct.
house. Even if they build it, what they call we are building it, they would have some Infosys or some version of an IT company doing the work for them. So why not just focus on that? And then that's where the bigger dollars are. That's where the systems are. That's where the data set is. That's where the stability is because these young
Yes.
startups may or may not see the light of the day. So why are you focusing on this? Is this like your GTM and early on you get many use cases, or is it these are just builders? Or and maybe you can also talk about builders versus buyers so that we understand that these are the app builders and these are the consumers. Just paint the picture for us.
Definitely. So I'll go back to where we started, right? So in any economy, when something grows exponentially, and healthcare in AI with AI is going to that, the in-house teams are not able to cope up with the speed of innovation. And then it's always the outsiders or so-called the builders who bring in the innovation, right? So very clearly we are calling them builders. Okay. Builders are the ones who are building these agents and models and they're picking a solution and doing that. And the buyers are the ones that you are referring to, like hospitals and healthcare systems, like, in India, in US, globally, we have customers in Canada and UK as well. These are so-called the buyers. They have money, they have resources, maybe they have millions of patients, they have hundreds or thousands of doctors within their network, but they're not AI native companies, let's just call it like that, right? So now to answer your question, Amit, when we started the company, we had our GTM laid out like that. It's part of the vision, right? Like, and I think you have built a marketplace. I've built a marketplace, both in the mobility space, right? You can't directly go to the best enterprise customer and say, we'll do everything for you. In that case, there's a risk of becoming a services company. You go and crack maybe like 2 or 3 large hospitals and you become their extended body shop team, right? Like, so we were very, very careful. There's something that I've learned with 15 years of entrepreneurship that 1 or 2 large enterprise customers, they could be a blessing, but that could also be a curse, right? Instead, what we did was, as part of our GTM, we said, let's first go to the builders for a couple of reasons. A, builders are living at the cutting edge. They take risk. They decide fast. They build things. They are thinking about future use cases, not the current use cases or the past use cases, right? So as part of our GTM, we said, first, let's build the supply. Through that, let's build the product, and let's understand what's the future of healthcare with AI, right? So let's call it Act 1, right? And then we are past that now with 2 years, right? Now we are entering the second act of our GTM, which is now we are going and talking to, that's why I was in India for 2 weeks, talking to almost all the large healthcare systems in India. We are already doing POCs and pilots with a lot of large healthcare systems in US. And I would say now we are ready. And not just we are ready, I would say they are also ready. Like 1 year back when I used to tell them just for exploration, if I go and tell a CIO of a large hospital in US that how do you think multi-agent workflows will help you bring operational efficiency? That CI will say, what is a multi-agent system 1 year back, right? But now they understand. Now they understand. So they have, and then as you know, they are not the early adopters of technology. They are mostly the late adopters or the laggards of the technology, right? But now they are all waking up, right? So timing wise, I would say it worked out well in terms of our GTM strategy that move very fast with the people who are moving fast, people who are innovative, people who take risks, people who are not worried about quality, compliance, audit, people who are not worried about regulation, people who are not, for first 6 months, we did not even have HIPAA certification, right? But we work with these companies and now we are enterprise ready with not just the maturity of the use cases, but also the maturity of the models that we have, the maturity of the pre-built agents that we have. And now when we go to the hospital, our articulation is very, very clear that with 101 GenAI, we are able to accelerate your AI adoption super fast. A, you don't have to build from scratch. We already have a lot of models and agents and data sets on our platform that you can quickly deploy. B, you get to work with only one vendor, which is 101 GenAI. So you don't have to work with like 20 different health tech startups trying to sell you to 20 different things and their agents don't talk to each other. So we are able to stitch it all together through a multi-agent platform, through our orchestrator. So we become that platform that brings all the AI innovation to them.
And
So
who is
it's
building
part
for
of the
them?
GTM. So go from builders to buyers is where we are right now.
So let's say you're signed up with a hospital in US, certain use cases they want to build with you. So you already have those APIs, those agents available, that platform available. But there is a bit of work that has to be done on top of it, some interface work, but few other things. Now, are your other app builders, they are working with these hospitals and building it for them, or your team is building these products for the hospitals?
Got it. So I think so far, Amit, we were mainly relying on our partners who were building it. So we were kind of going together. Like, let's say if we go to a large healthcare system and someone has built something very specific, then we'll go with them and then we'll kind of jointly pitch and we're doing that. But now it's changing now that we are much more matured and the use cases are very diverse. So it's no more restricted to just one partner, right? So imagine a hospital saying that I need mental health workflows. I want to do MSK workflows. I want to do prior auth. I want to do EHR Connect. I want to do quality compliance audit. And they have all these use cases, right? Because now when I talk to all these CIOs or chief AI officers at these large healthcare systems, there's no shortage of use cases, right? Now what we do is, and then we are expanding our team as well. Now when we go to these hospitals, we go with our so-called forward deployed engineers and we take full ownership, right? Even if the model is pre-built, let's say, let's take an example of radiology. If the model is pre-built, but it has to be retrained on that hospital's 10 years of data, then our engineers will take care of that. So you don't start from scratch, you don't start from zero, but like we are able to do the last mile of, I would say, the customization required for this large healthcare system.
And if you already have some specific solution from your builders, that can be plugged into it while you're building it.
Definitely, yeah. That's our starting point. That's always our starting point that we already have.
Okay, got it.
It's like a bouquet of, I would say, solutions that you already have or the copilot that you already. We start with that. A, you customize it. B, someone says that I need something that maybe does not exist on our platform. In that case, we co-create those things as well.
Got it. No, this is helpful. Fair. Now, how does the future look like? Let's say this initially that you were solving for this chicken and egg or cold start problem. So you build supply, and you build supply through builders who were anyway selling outside. So they were worrying about their demand themselves. You didn't have to worry about their demand as long they were seeing you as a tool, or that's how a lot of networks start. Come for utility, stay for network kind of a thesis. So you were giving them the utility that I can allow you, I'll help you build faster. But you have built something that is valuable. There is a customer for it. You go and fend for that customer. If I come across a customer, I'll connect. Then now you are going for after those customers saying that I have these 10 10 or 20 or 50 apps. They may be of use to you. If you want to them to be customized and tailored, we can do that.
Sure.
If you have a need which is not served through these apps, then we'll get either one of them or ourselves or someone else to build it so that your problem is solved better here than anyone else. You will either someone will ask you to start from scratch, or they will try to kind of sell you what they have, and you're still stuck with certain problems not solved, and then you'll have to knock another door, and those systems will not talk to each other. Something like that is happening now that that how does if let's say this plays out as you're thinking couple of years, and you have more builders and you have more buyers, and you got to a certain scale, what does a scaled up platform look like? What are the network effects in it? How does it become more and more valuable? Is there a point where some kind of an it becomes that emergent property of design shows up, wherein what it started with, it is very different from what it has become, and then it is very compelling. The proposition is so compelling that this becomes a de facto, or this becomes a very large company, versus you get what you rewarded for what how much effort you put in. But at some point, can you just take off? How do you see that future?
Great question, Namit. And then I would say, just like a true entrepreneur, which I always respect you for that. I think we should not start a company with 1 year, 2 year horizon, right? We should always start a company with, I always say that at least 10 years, but like even 10 years, I feel is a short time. And we look at like successful companies like that we all respect, right? Google, Facebook, and all, Amazon, and all, right? So when we started this company, we imagined a future in healthcare, very specifically healthcare. Right? If our vision is true, within a couple of years, maybe 4 or 5 years, there will be a problem of plenty. What is the problem of plenty? Problem of plenty is that there'll be hundreds of millions of agents and models floating around just for healthcare. There'll be so many agents for, let's say, scribing, which is already happening. There'll be, let's say, thousands of models and agents for radiology. There'll be like maybe like 50 different models for a just knee surgery kind of a use case, right? So we'll have a problem of plenty. And then at that point of time, what will drive the markets? At that point of time, what will drive the market is trust, accuracy, reliability, right? So if you ask me what do we see the future of a platform like 101, I think it will not be just restricted to a no-code platform where people are coming and building and on the other people are consuming. I would say that platform will be something, think of it like Amazon, think of it like Uber, where people will come and people will say that, okay, they will write their requirements and we recommend, let's say, 5 agents that will compose that workflow. And that those agents, along with those agents, we are not just forcing them to use one agent. We are saying that every agent has an accuracy score. Every agent has a rating system rated by other hospitals. It also tells you that this is already live in these many healthcare systems. So maybe this is a leader in UK market, but number 3 in US market, right? Like all those things will come into play, and that's the only way I would say the trust will come in, right? So I think that's about the trust and the reliability part, the safety rating, the accuracy rating, the efficacy rating, the contextualization in terms of the specificity for that region and everything, right? Because in healthcare, the same model could give different results for Indian gene pool versus Caucasian gene pool, right? So I think that's on that. The second point that you touched upon, Amit, is the network effect, right? It's always tough, and it's something that all the entrepreneurs struggle with, right? Like getting the first customer or getting one large logo is always tough, right? Expansion is easier, right? And that's where the network effect is what we are counting on, right? So let's say if we crack a large healthcare system, let's talk about just one large healthcare system, right? You get there, you deliver on first 4 or 5 or 10 use cases, and then the internal team unlocks the value of going live. Like let's say the manager or the board or the junior most employee comes up with an idea, goes back to the desk, and by end of day they're able to go live with it. Is the future that we see, right? Without like thinking about it, without reinventing the wheel, they are able to quickly go about it, right? So that's the future that we see, right? That there'll be hundreds of millions, maybe billions of like agents built by so many people, just like TikTok videos or Uber's floating around. That problem will be solved with ratings, accuracy, safety, comments, feedback. And then the second is the network effect, that once you land, then you're able to expand very, very fast, not just for one use case, but for other use cases, right? That's on the buyer side. So on the builder side, let's say you build an app and that gets adopted by, let's say, one healthcare system in US. And then you get such great reviews that without even hiring a single sales guy in US, your agent is being used by like top 10 healthcare systems within US, right? So that's the kind of distribution network effect that we see maybe like a couple of years, maybe 5 years from now.
Okay, got it. Just quickly, couple of more questions. One is around the scale. What is your current scale? How many builders you have? How many buyers you have? What is your? How do you make money? How do you charge your builders? How do you charge your buyers? And what's your run rate? Where you're headed in the next few months?
Got it. So we are about to touch $1 million in ARR with just the builders. With just the builders, we have very few buyers on our platform because, as I said, like buyer GTM has just
That's
started this year, so we are very early. But and then some people, I was talking to someone at Roblox, and they were saying you should not monetize your builders, right? So that's another debate that we are having internally. But at some point of time, I want it to be free for our builders, right? But right now, as a bootstrap company, we are monetizing it from our builders, and using that, we're able to touch almost $1 million ARR. So that's the scale at which we operate. We have, I would say, close to 50 builders on our platform. These are the people who come and they build, and they're all over the world. We have builders in UK, we have builders in Canada, we have builders in US, primarily US, and we have few builders in in India as well, right? So that's on the builder side. On the buyer side, let me talk about the pricing model on the builder as well. We have this four-tiered pricing. We call it explore, build, launch, scale. Explore is where people start building something or doing a POC, what you were calling, for $100 a month. Once they start building, they start paying $1,000 a month. Once their use cases live in a healthcare system, once they get funding, they move to $5,000 per month. And scale is when they are really monetizing. They have a big team and their use cases are being deployed across various healthcare systems. That's when they go to $10,000 per month, right? That's a SaaS subscription model with some limitations in terms of APIs and usage. That's how we do that. That's on the builder side. On the buyer side, our pricing model is very, very different. On the buyer side, it's primarily consumption-based pricing, right? Where we charge some fixed fee just to make sure that the platform fee is covered. But we charge on the outcomes, we charge on the API. That's what AI-based pricing is. That's what we are focusing on. That the more they use, the more they consume, the more value we create for the healthcare systems, more we make money. And then intent is to pass it back to the builder side. So let's say we are making a dollar. I'm just picking a random number. Let's say we're making a dollar for every API that's being hit. And behind the scenes, one builder is like providing that solution. Then we'll share that revenue with that builder. So consumption based pricing on the buyer side and subscription based pricing on the builder side.
And where do you see this growing? How many builders you'll have, let's say 12 months from now, and how many buyers you'll have, and what would be your overall scale in terms of revenue or ARR from builders as well as from buyers? 12 months forward, 24 months forward, whatever you feel.
And of course, yeah. So as you know, Amit, we are about to close our seed round, right? So with this seed round, we plan to go to we want to finish this year with 2 million ARR, and by end
This
of next
calendar
year,
year or
this calendar,
US,
US
versus US?
calendar year. Yeah. So we are a Delaware company, so we operate
Yeah.
as per the
Yeah.
US calendar, which is like calendar year. So by December of 2025, we want to be at 2 million ARR, and we are pretty close to hitting that. We have 6 more months to grow, and we will hit that very comfortably. And next year, if all goes well, with the enterprise GTM and everything, we'll be close to 6 million ARR.
Got it. And in terms of number of builders, how is that growing? Are you adding new builders every month? Are you, and how are they
We are
coming?
doing that. We are doing that right now. We are being very, very careful because our product is in like still early access. We are like still calling it like public beta, but we are not making it public. We are not making it free or something. At some point of time, I think it will explode. The moment we crack it on the buyer side, will explode. By end of next year, we plan to have our platform live with double digit healthcare systems, right? I will not be very specific here. Double digit healthcare systems, primarily in US, but few could be international as well. And that will be powered by hundreds of thousands of builders behind the scenes.
And what is not working? So not everything that we build works. So what is keeping you awake, and what is the big if question that you're dealing with?
I think that's not working is I would say the inference cost or the latency with these AI models, something that we are seeing with healthcare that mostly backfires. So let's talk about the builder ecosystem. Someone says that I have this vision that I want to do a second opinion and I want to do a video thing for second opinion and I want to do it for, let's say, cancer. Text is easy. Audio is, I would say, doable, but with some delay of 15, 20 seconds. Video is still not real time, right? So there are a lot of ideas where people come to us with a grand vision. And then maybe that's the nature of the builder because they're always thinking a couple of years ahead, right? They come with a grand vision. Technically, it's possible that we do it. But when you start implementing it, when you start giving it to the doctors, when you start giving it to the nurses, the user experience part is not fully solved, right? Like no doctor will say that, like, okay, I'll click a button, I'll wait like 10 seconds or 20 seconds or 30 seconds to do that, right? That's why I would say I'll draw a line between product and technology. I would say technology is there for most of the use cases, but the product workflow, the UX is still not completely sorted, right? And at times we innovate the workflow by saying, okay, certain things we do async, certain things we do real time, but that's where I see friction between technology and adoption, right? There's a reason why not all the engineering solutions are adopted in healthcare. It has not been adopted in the past, right? Because when you work with these nurses, doctors, hospitals, admin people who are running a workflow, I think that adoption and accuracy, that delay, or that user experience has to be as per their expectation, right? So that's where it's not working, and that leads to lack of trust, lack of faith in AI and everything. That those are the kind of problems that we are, I would say, learning and constantly improving upon.
Yeah, but this still seems more like a when problem. As the models get better, latency gets solved. You'll also be a beneficiary. You don't have to solve this problem yourself. Maybe you can just cherry pick the use cases which are not
Correct.
time critical or which are not video heavy and all. What is an if question? Like in your so you're like almost like an app store, Apple App Store you're building or something. In your proposition, in your business model, what are the if questions that bother you? This will mean that okay, your run rate will be slower and you'll have some churn, but you have to bide your time for a year, 2 years, and then you'll be fine. What are the when questions? So what are the if questions?
If I think is what I mean, you were touching upon earlier, right? Like when you build a marketplace with two sides of the equation, striking a balance is very complicated. Even though like I'm giving certain answers, but like only time will tell how it plays out, right? Like marketplaces are always easier on paper, but there's always
Yeah.
one or two players who dominate it, right? And that goes beyond technology. That has a lot to do with the market dynamics. Look at on the content creation side, TikTok cracked it, others just followed it. On the e-commerce side, Amazon cracked it, others could not do it as much there, right? So I would say on there, if you ask me, like, what is the biggest risk that I see is the marketplace vision may or may not turn out to be the way we imagine, because we are trying to put the principles of what has worked in other marketplaces in the world of
Yeah.
AI, right? But so far, we have not seen the success. Like Hugging Face is the closest that we have seen,
Yeah.
where it's a marketplace for
Yeah.
engineers, for model data sets and everything. But let's say Hugging Face for healthcare, no code platform, marketplace, healthcare systems adopting and trusting an agent built by someone sitting like on the opposite side of the planet, right? Like there are a lot of questions on that side as well, right? The other big risk is that, which is something that I was discussing with one of our advisor is, which is very apparent, right? We are saying that at some point of time, there'll be millions of agents floating around and people will just quickly click a button and deploy it and retrain it and do that. But what if AI moves to a level where building is super easy, right? Then what is the advantage of giving them something that will take them maybe like a day to build, right? So I think the speed of building, if that gets shortened, then the value proposition for the marketplace will also get diluted, right? So good thing is, Amit, that as an entrepreneur, we are already thinking about these problems and we are aware of it, right? And I think the only thing that we can do is be aware of the problem and think very deeply about it, and so that we are not surprised with the change in consumer behavior or the market behavior or the buying behavior.
Got it. Just one last question. You have talked about you will have hundreds of millions of agents. As on date, how many agents you have? And if you can just talk about few of them just to visualize, help us visualize what are these agents, what are they doing, which are already
Got
in available. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So I would say, like, just to be very, very crisp and clear, we are a small company, just like 19-month-old company. We are small. We have hundreds of agents on our platform, not thousands of agents on our platform. And we break it down into three categories. So we say doctor-facing agents, consumer-facing, which is the patient-facing agents, and the administrative agents, right? Examples for doctor-facing agents are like, symptom triaging, medication recommendation, cancer screening, giving advice to patients remotely, right? Like remote patient monitoring, kind of thing, care coordination kind of things are on the patient, on the clinician side, right? I would say much more hands-on, much more sensitive to data, much more sensitive to accuracy, and I would say also much more sensitive to regulations as well, right? The second category is the patient-facing use cases, where it's mainly about virtual health. It's about like lifestyle management, medication management, symptom triaging, or self-diagnosis, or the second opinion that you were talking about. Those kind of things where it's a consumer app built by someone, and where they have certain questions and they ask certain questions and we are able to give them, or maybe someone is able to upload their prescriptions and like notes and get some second opinion. Those kind of use cases, like these are mental health, women's health, kind of use cases, or chronic care management, but in a self-care platform for someone like my dad who's in 70s and can't visit hospital every other day, right? So that's on that. But the most exciting part, that's what I would say we started on it, right? We thought like that's where most of the excitement and meat is. But slowly, what we are realizing, we are doubling down on that, both on the builder side as well as on the buyer side, is the administrative use cases. Things like revenue cycle management, things like admin workflows, things like quality, things like compliance, things like audit, things like EHR, Connect. Like these are the things that are, I would say, high impact use cases. Broken, high impact. You're not taking anyone's job by doing it. Like it's broken. You are not challenging a doctor by competing with AI. You're not putting a patient's life at risk by giving an AI recommendation. These are the things that are operational. These are not medical, these are operational issues that we are doing. One place where we are seeing a lot of repetition and I would say ROI is the quality compliance audit, where we go from not just the builder use case, but also the checker use cases. Right? So we are like, let's say if AI or a human process is being done, how can AI supervise it, right? So more of a checker use case is where we are seeing a lot of repeatability and a lot of skill there.
But then, kind of taking the health away from it, it's an admin problem. Like, we joke about that is food delivery. Earlier, we used to call food delivery food tech in India, right? That is not food tech.
Yes.
That is food delivery, right? We started calling
Yes,
it
yes.
food delivery. Yes, there is tech. So
Yes.
are you saying that this is a healthcare admin platform that gets built, or you're saying that today we are building this and tomorrow the aspiration is to go into other use cases, or where is it?
I would say I think focus is very clear, Amit. Focus is very clear. That's another thing where like it's not just one-on-one journey. I also advise few startups based on my previous experience. I think focus is very clear, right? And this is more true for healthcare, right? Look at scribing as a use case, right? We can debate whether it's a doctor-facing use case or administrative use case, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
scribing is done or medical coding is done for an administrative purpose, right? So it's effectively an admin use case, right? And writing it back to the EHR in certain format, right? I think the way the note taking is done in healthcare versus the note taking is done for meetings like these, right?
Yeah,
It's very
absolutely
different,
different.
right? Absolutely, right? You can't build a horizontal platform and say that, hey, like a doctor can use let's say Fathom Notes or
Granular.
Author for healthcare. That's not how it works, right? The note taking or medical coding for healthcare is very, very different than any other industry. Now, to answer your question, admin use cases for healthcare is still healthcare. Just that it's very specific to healthcare. Think of it like all the insurance claims that are processed, right? Like think about all the regulations and compliance and audit requirements that are very specific to healthcare, right? I think use cases are very, very specific to healthcare. And this is where my hypothesis is that, like, a horizontal platform company can't just like sell it to a hospital and say that just customize it. That's not how it works, right? From LLMs to models to workflows to doctor in the loop features, all of that has to be very, very healthcare specific. And that's where I think that's where the network effect will come in. That's where the specificity, that's where the accuracy will come in.
But as you go forward, are you seeing that you'll be mostly focused on this, what you're calling admin in healthcare system? Is that your primary use case going forward also, or you will dig into the doctor facing and the patient facing ones also?
I would this is going back to our strategy, right? So let's call it the wedge use case. This is our wedge use case. This is our landing use case, that you land with a quality compliance audit or an admin workflow, because that's an easier sell. And then once you land, then you can expand to anything else. So let's say you go to a large hospital with admin workflows, and then they say, hey, do you do medical like treatment recommendation, right? And the answer is yes. But like we don't have to do it, that we already have something. That effectively you go land, you identify the lay of the land, you identify the problems, you build trust, and then you start slowly rolling out other agents as well. So that's how we
Got it.
see the long-term thing there, right?
I think this is very useful. I don't have any further questions. Took a little more of your time than we thought we would.
I also
So I
lost
hope,
track of time, but yeah. I also lost
but
track of time, but like a great conversation. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for all the questions, and I hope you were able to get to most of it. Yeah.